Hey, it's Freedman here at Fantasy Labs. I've written a running back breakdown for week 9, and I want to talk about it a little bit and highlight one of the tools that I used in researching for it. So I'm going to share my screen. And so here we're looking at the front page of Fantasy Labs. And so here's the running back breakdown. I have another tab open here. And so as of writing, the 4 guys who are at the top of our models, and we have 7 different pro models created by Jonathan Bales, Peter Jennings, CSU Ram 88, Adam Levitan, Sean Corner, Chris Raybon, Kevin McClelland, or the Sports Geek, and then yours truly. And so throughout those 7 pro models, 4 different running backs were at the top of one of them. And so Dalvin Cook, Le'Veon Bell, Aaron Jones, and DeAndre Washington. And so this might raise a question. What about Christian McCaffrey, who I address in the upside running backs portion of the breakdown? So even though he's not at the very top of our models, he still shows very well in our models. And I wanted to highlight a little bit how it is that he's standing out. So one, as I mentioned here, McCaffrey is the #1 running back in our Week 9 fantasy football rankings, which you can see here. You can find those at Action Network. Those come out every Tuesday morning. Sean Corner, Chris Raybon, and I put those together. They're maintained throughout the week and then hardcore updated over the weekend as you head into your Sunday games. So McCaffrey is the #1 running back in our projections and our rankings. No surprise there. And if you look in our models at Fantasy Labs, what you see is that McCaffrey, obviously he's the highest salaried player. No surprise there. More expensive basically than he's ever been at any other point in his career, but he backs it up. We have him within the models projected with the highest median projection here. So you can sort through here and see that he has the highest median projection, the highest ceiling projection, and the highest floor projection. And to give some background on the floor projections and the ceiling projections, those were created and incorporated a couple of years ago into our models. And the idea behind them is that for certain players, someone like McCaffrey, median projection is fine. You're thinking about him for cash games, but you're also interested in what his ceiling might be, especially for guaranteed prize pools. Ceiling is very important. If you look at floor, that gives you a greater sense of the security that a player might offer for cash games. So median projections, they're important, but the ceiling projections and the floor projections help to add context. There is a video that was created a couple of years ago by Jonathan Bales. And so if you click on the median, ceiling, and floor projections URL here, that will take you to the video that Bales created talking about the projections for ceiling and floor. But kind of big picture, what we do is we look at all the factors that go into the projections that we would create for median projections, but we start to look at them in the more extreme instances, and we create similarity scores based on what previous players who are similar have done in similar circumstances. So if we wanted to get a sense of what Christian McCaffrey might do this weekend playing against Tennessee, if we want to get a sense of what he might do on the high end and the low end, we could see what players similar to McCaffrey have done in the past in similar situations to give us their ceiling and their floor projections. And so that is what is driving the ceiling and the floor projections here. And so sorting through it a little bit, you can look at the top 5 by median projections: McCaffrey, Cook, Jones, Le'Veon Bell, and Nick Chubb, right? Not a surprise. Probably, if you had to project, if you had to rank those guys, they would all probably be in your top 5, at least in your top 8 for this week. But if we sort by ceiling, what we see is that Chris Carson actually jumps up into the top five, and Dalvin Cook drops out. And you can kind of think about how that would make sense. Dalvin Cook playing on the road in Kansas City. Kansas City has a tradition of low scoring games at home. And it could be a situation, especially if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play, where there are other touches that end up going to Alexander Madison and Dalvin Cook. While he has a good game, he's number 6 in our ceiling projections. Maybe he doesn't have the peak game. Chris Carson playing at home, as a favorite, that is a good situation for him in general. If you look at the floor projections, you see that all of the guys who were in our median projections are still in our top 5. But Dalvin Cook has dropped a little bit from number 2, where he was in our median projections, to number 5 in our floor projections. So I think the important thing is that the ceiling and floor projections help to add some context to the overall range of outcomes that a guy will have. So although our median projections, I think, are the best in the business because they're created by Sean Corner, the ceiling and the floor projections really start to flesh out what a guy might be capable of doing within any given slate. So that is the model for running backs for week 9, and the projections for median and ceiling and floors can be found in there.